Hi, I'm Rick Reef. Welcome to SoCal Insider. No question, America's and certainly California's colleges and universities have long been the envy of the world. But these days there are cracks in the ivory tower, student protests, tuition costs, and other grievances. We'll examine those issues and more with Cal State Northridge students and an education reporter. But first, a view from the top. Tim White is Chancellor of Cal State University. He stopped by recently for a visit. Chancellor White, thanks for stopping by.
Rick is happy to be here.
You are a little under a year now. You're coming up on the 1-year mark pretty soon here as the Chancellor of the Cal State system. And you said one of the things you wanted to do was get to every campus. There's 23 campuses. It's the biggest university system in the world. How many have you gotten to so far?
We've made 20 and a half, and have 2.5 to go. One got interrupted unexpectedly.
So which ones do you still have to hit?
Los Angeles, Fresno, and half of Stanislaus.
Okay, and you've hit that, which gives the viewer some idea of just how pervasive the Cal State system is.
Yes.
Okay, when you took over just a little under a year ago, you said our time is a transformative and precarious moment for the university and the state. What did you mean by that?
Well, I meant it in so many different ways. One, of course, was economically. At the time I came into the Cal State system, we were just hopefully at that time finishing the recession. As it turns out, I think we were. So there was a financial precariousness to the institution that had lost so many resources, as has every other business in California and the country. So we weren't picked on. It was just a tough time for all of us. But also the changing ecology of how learning will go forward in the years to come. How we can infuse technology in ways we haven't in the past to create learning environments and research environments for our faculty and students. That's going to be the great opportunity of this decade, really, to figure out how to do that well, to keep quality high, but to increase access, increase the ability of students to move through and get their bachelor's or master's degree. That's the precariousness of what we're at.
You know, as you well know, in recent years, there have been a lot of protests on campuses, on UC and Cal State campuses. There have been some charges that, Cal State was being kind of tone deaf to what was going on. Tuition's going up, students are waitlisted for courses they can't get into, and yet administrative salaries keep going up. Just to go through what you did when you took over, just a few months after the Cal State system had given new presidents 10% pay raises over what their predecessors got, to much criticism from Jerry Brown, the governor, and many others. You come in and you ask the trustees, don't start me at this level. I'm taking a 10% pay cut. Now, were you sending a message?
I was actually trying to make sure that as I came into the system, that I got as many distractions out of the way as possible. Taking a salary reduction seemed to me to be the right thing to do for the reasons you just said, but also I think to communicate to my employees, the faculty and staff of the university, as well as the students and their families, that it is a different time, that they've been through a tremendous period of difficulty. Students' tuition doubled. Salaries were flat or even reduced in many cases during this time. So for me to be part of the leadership of this organization, I think I had to bear my burden as well, and so that was really what I was delivering.
Now, have any of the other administrators stepped up and said, by golly, Chancellor, that's a great idea, I'm kicking in 10% too?
No, nor have I asked them to, nor do I expect them to. I mean, I think especially the campus leaders who run these very complicated environments. I mean, take here in our region here at Fullerton, almost 40,000 students. It's a small city, with law enforcement issues and food and housing and behavior issues, let alone the academic enterprise. The fundraising, the political acumen, the fact that position is on 24/7, 365. So, our salaries, I know, are high relative to the average salaries in California and across the nation. But both for our faculty and our staff, in many cases, not all, and our senior executives of the campuses, is we're well below market, sort of 20–30% below market, and that's the balance for us.
Well, now it sounds like you're making an argument for big pay raises.
I'm making an argument to make sure that we have strong, robust faculty, strong, robust staff members, and strong, robust campus leaders.
But in your case, as you pointed out, it's not like you're a poverty case. I mean, even with the cut, you're making close to $400,000 a year.
That's correct.
What about, the fact that you took this job? If they had said right from the get-go, we're going to pay you $380 instead of $420, would you have not taken the job because it wasn't enough money?
I came into the CSU, which is a place that launched me last century. I'm a product of 2 of the campuses, and I've sent my kids to the campuses as well up in Northern California. Yeah. I'm at a point in my life where because of my CSU experience back in the 60s and 70s, I've had a very interesting life. It's my chance to give back. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to base policy on my personal commitment to the institution. It'd be unwise to do that. I think policies have to be, we need to find faculty, staff, and senior leaders who are capable, and whether people like it or not, for all of those positions, there's a market piece to it.
I think in the last year, as you referenced, the financial situation of the Cal State system's improved some. Mm-hmm. The state got the tax increase, and there's more money. So are students and parents in the Cal State system, should they be bracing for more tuition increases, or are they going to get some breathing room here?
They're getting breathing room on the tuition. And first, let me say thank you to Californians who voted in support of Prop 30. I know it wasn't popular, but a lot of that resource went into education, not only us, but the UC and community colleges and K through 12. As a result, last year, this year, and next year, tuition will be essentially flat. It's not going up. There may be some small fees, $10 a year, $50 a year if students have taxed themselves for something with student life issues. But the basic tuition is going to stay constant. And that's a result of the state of California having the resources and the political will to start reinvesting in these very important systems.
There's been some talk even there might not be a tuition increase for a few years. Is that possible?
I think, we're in year 2, and certainly next year will be year 3.
Okay.
But it's hard to read the crystal ball for the long term, so I'd hate to promise that it would never go up again. It has to, really, with the cost of inflation. But compared to doubling in the course of 5 or 6 years, it's now very stable, which allows families to plan, allows us to plan, and allows us to deliver the education to those that we can afford to have in our wings.
As you well know, a lot of talk nowadays that college is overpriced, that in fact higher education is a bubble that's going to pop, that what you pay to graduate from a Harvard or a UC university is just out of whack with the actual benefit, and that parents and kids that are taking on tens, sometimes over $100,000 in debt, it's not a payoff. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think across the country, certainly student debt is a huge issue. It's over $1 trillion. That's with a T. That's more than credit card debt. But Cal State University is not part of the problem. Do you realize that we charge as a rack rate about $5,500 for tuition and about $1,000 for fee? But the actual amount that students pay is about $3,200. So it's almost discounted in half when those who, on average, with financial aid. You compare that $6,500 to what it costs to go to a preschool here in the Fullerton area, it's about $10,000 a year for preschool. Okay. So the other thing to say is less than 40% of our students across all 23 campuses leave with any debt at all. That's not the national average.
You're saying Cal State's a bargain.
It's a tremendous value in the positive sense of that word.
How about then, let me ask you the more generic question, when it pertains to some of these big name universities, are they overpriced?
Well, I think they are expensive, that's for sure. And the fact that students are coming out with those 6-figure debts, I think that is a problem for society. Our students come out when they have debt. Like I said, less than 40% have debt. Their average debt is $16,000, which is well below the state of California average of almost 19 and the national average of 24. So again, I think Californians need to realize that their generosity of investing in the system over the years, solid financial aid programs in California, really is working. The squawking has been, it used to be a lot less expensive to the person. The cost of education actually hasn't gone up. What's gone up is who's paying for it. The state has decreased, and when the state decreases, tuition has to go up to compensate for that, or we turn away more students or lower quality. Neither would serve California.
Right. But tuition has been going up, particularly at private universities, but even at Cal State, as much of a bargain as it may be, there have been increases every year for years.
Well, for the last 4 or 5 years, you're right, it doubled.
Yeah, doubled. Yeah.
But the state of California didn't have the resources. The state of California used to pay $3 billion to CSU.
Right. So you're saying parents have been asked to pick up that slack.
It's kind of like toll roads, right? California used to have freeways.
Yeah.
public education used to be sort of like a freeway. Now it's like a toll road. If you use it, you got to pay.
Okay. You talked right at the top about changes that need to be made. These are changing times. What are some of the things that colleges need to do either new or better than what they have in the past?
Well, certainly bend the cost curve, make it less expensive for the combination of the student and the state to earn a degree. And we're doing that. We're bending that cost curve. We can do it on the business side, for example, of shared purchases. Instead of each campus getting a contract to buy paper or laptop computers, go across the whole system. In fact, we're actually going across CSU and UC to create those big volume things that we buy. Towels, bed sheets, computers.
That seems such a common sense thing. And I read that you wanted to do this. You mean it's never been done before? Why? I mean, somebody must have come up with the idea. Why don't you do that? We're going to make bulk purchases. Gee, we're going to be able to save money. Nobody ever...
I think there's a lot of things that got in the way, but we're now committed to doing it. And
little bureaucacracies maybe, or
perhaps
fiefdoms, that type of thing?
Oh, maybe one or two. But I think, I think it means...
You're blowing up the boxes of academia in some sense?
I'm trying to say, let's spend what we need on the administration and the business side. And you need solid business. It's a big business. It's a big business, and we don't want to get on the wrong side of policies or federal laws or things of that nature. You need very qualified people to run the business. But if we're being ineffective or inefficient in that business, then let's find a better way.
Finally, you ran UC Riverside, so you ran a UC university. You're now taking over this job, as we mentioned, the largest university system in the world. What has surprised you most in this new job?
Oh gosh, first of all, that we're big. We're a 1,000-mile long campus. I blurted out I'd visit all 23 without thinking of the mechanics of getting around. I think the thing that really strikes me is how powerfully important this university is. People ask me, which is your best one? And my answer is, well, what business are you in, or where do you live? Because in Arcata and Eureka, the answer is generally Humboldt State. In the San Joaquin Valley, it's going to be one of the Valley campuses. And that's the beauty of this, is it's sort of a community-based university, 23 zip codes around the state where there's a lot of people and a lot of businesses that rely on them as economic drivers and drivers of social mobility. It's a fascinatingly important, powerful piece of California's future.
Well, Chancellor, thanks again so much for stopping by, and continued luck as you transform the university system.
Thank you, Rick.
So we've heard from a chancellor. Now let's hear from some students. David Nazar visited the campus that made him what he is, for better or worse. David, what's the story?
That's right, Cal State Northridge. I'm a proud alum with a broadcast journalism degree. Rick, actually, by the way, that was a good interview. Just one thing, I kind of commend Chancellor White for leading by example by taking that 10% pay cut. But look, really, there's a big difference between administrators taking a cut when they earn $400,000 while folks who earn a tiny fraction of that struggle to pay tuition. Enough preaching. Anyway, here's what students had to say at my great CSUN alma mater. Why are you here at Northridge getting an education?
Well, I'm the first person in my family to get an education, and I think it's just important. I'm actually here at Northridge because of the cost. I was originally supposed to go to UC Riverside, but it was too expensive for me to afford, and the CSU here really helped.
What is the difference in cost between a UC school and the Cal State system here?
The net difference would be about a little bit under $20,000.
What are some of the problems you see here on campus?
Personally, the problems that I see here on campus is the cost of housing, and therefore I don't want to pay that much, and therefore I have to commute all the way from Los Angeles here 2 hours back and forth. And that saves me a lot of money, but it also takes away a lot of time, personal time to study. I could use that time to work extra hours, but I have to cut back from working. I have to cut back from most of my social life because I have 4 hours a day times 4, that's 16 hours a week, every week for all the school year, and therefore that takes a lot of my time.
Are there other costs here on campus that are hurting you?
Yes, they are. Actually, books are really, really expensive. I remember one of my classes, it was just a tiny centimeter spiral book. It was around $80 to $90. That is crazy for 100 pages of printed paper. So for me, that's one of the highest costs I see.
What are you studying here?
I am a liberal studies major. I want to be a teacher for special needs kids in elementary school.
Why are you getting an education?
I'm getting an education because it's important. My family has gotten an education, my teachers, everybody I know has gotten an education, and education is knowledge, knowledge is power, and power, well, we'll just leave it at that.
Why did you choose Cal State Northridge of all the Southern California schools you could have gone to?
It was important to me because it was close to my home, and it also included a very good special needs program, and it also had one of the best teacher programs in the state of California.
As a student here at Northridge, what are some of the challenges you or other students you talk to face?
Sometimes the classes are a little big. I have one class in a huge auditorium. But most of all, from what I see, I can get my classes, most people can get their classes pretty quickly, and it's pretty good, so.
Is the tuition affordable for you? Is this one of the reasons why you chose a Cal State school?
It's affordable for me, and from what I see, it's affordable for a lot of people on scholarship, and it's not outrageous even if you're not on scholarship, so I don't see any problem with the tuition.
You look like a runner.
Yes, of course. I'm on the CSUN track and field team here.
The track team probably takes a lot of your time, but of course you're studying here to get an education.
Yes, of course. I'm a kinesiology major, concentration in exercise science, which is really good. Kinesiology is really popular, especially at CSUN, and it's really competitive, and we have one of the best programs.
What are some of the good points and some of the bad points of Cal State Northridge?
Well, good points is that it's really culturally diverse. There's different types of people here as compared to where I came from. There was just a certain everyone seemed the same, but here it's you meet new people every single time. But what's kind of difficult is having the way the classes are situated, and then also getting aid and help from financial aid and everything like that.
What are your costs per semester, per year with your tuition, with your books?
Tuition, I believe, is about $7,000 a year, and my books are, only a few hundred a semester, about $300.
It sounds like very reasonable prices to get an education.
Yeah, it is actually quite reasonable. Yeah.
Why is education important?
I'm hoping to get a lot higher salary.
So ultimately, education is all about the green. Well, Rick, as you just heard, it's really kind of a very positive mood among the students, maybe because they're just young, bright, and optimistic, or maybe because the worst of the state budget crisis and tuition hikes are over, at least for the time being. However, some warnings from school officials, they tell me that a lot of kids entering Cal State from the public school system simply aren't college ready. Also, they say there needs to be more diversity, hiring faculty that looks like the students. And I heard, and White mentioned it, that with a starting faculty salary of about $40,000, Northridge and other CSUs really are having trouble competing for teachers.
Okay. Well, it does seem like an upbeat mood these days on the CSU campus. Thanks, David. And now, somebody whose job it is to watch what's going on in higher education. Joining me, Scott Martindale, education reporter for the Orange County Register. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you for having me on.
So let me get your opinion. I talked to Chancellor White about it. I'd like to hear what you think of this idea that people are paying too much for college these days.
Well, there's no doubt about the fact that college costs are going up at an alarming rate, both for the public and private colleges. And a lot of economists are talking about a bubble, just like we saw with the housing crisis developing, over $1.2 trillion in student debt, and there doesn't seem to be any end to it. Students are continuing to pay whatever colleges are charging.
Yet, if you're a resident of California, it seems like it's a pretty good deal. If you can get into a UC or a Cal State, yeah, it's expensive, but compared to the alternative, it's pretty good.
Absolutely. I think there's never been more of a demand for a college degree, and students are willing to pay whatever it's going to cost them, even if tuition doubles, triples in just the past decade.
But if it is indeed a bubble, at some point that's going to pop, right? It'll be interesting to see what that's going to look like.
Absolutely. It's pretty scary.
So let's talk about some of the changes that are going on. There is, and the Chancellor referenced technology, and there's this thing now called MOOCs, M-O-O-C. What is a MOOC, and what impact is that having on education?
Well, a MOOC is an acronym. It stands for Massive Open Online Course, and it's kind of the latest buzzword in higher education. It's the idea that you can take an online course that's offered by a college and scale it up to essentially have unlimited enrollment. And these can be students that are not necessarily at the university. They can essentially be anywhere in the entire world.
So you can be in Bangladesh or in Idaho, and you can go online and hear Harvard and take a course from a Harvard professor. Is that the idea?
That's exactly what it is. And there's a number of very prestigious universities, including Harvard, MIT, Stanford. Locally, we have UC Irvine that are getting on board and offering these courses. Now, there's an important distinction, though, between a MOOC class and a traditional online class that's offered by a university. So in addition to MOOCs, which are very much in an experimental phase, and they're not being offered for college credit generally, there's also these courses that are available to students at the university completely online, and those have much smaller class sizes with caps, and they have much more involvement of the faculty member interacting with those students.
Do you think these MOOCs and these other online courses, are they going to become more popular, and are they going to transform the universities?
Absolutely. We're already seeing kind of the gradual growth of online courses, especially in the UC and Cal State systems. They certainly are getting on board. For example, the Cal State system just this fall, for the first time ever, is allowing a student at, for example, Cal State Fullerton to take a online course offered by another Cal State. And of course that might seem kind of logical. Of course that should be the case, but it does take a long time for institutions to change.
To some extent, it seems like when you say the institutions change, I can see them seeing this as kind of a threat. A lot of these courses charge little or nothing, right? And so they're giving away their product, so to speak, sort of like newspapers have done in recent years. So I mean, and I know that the governor has been big on this. The governor's been talking about, the state legislature is kind of prodding the universities. Are they being slow to embrace this, or do you see them stepping up?
I think they're being cautious. There's a lot of lack of understanding, not a lot of research that's been done on the effectiveness of online courses. MOOCs especially, very, very experimental. A lot of faculty are not excited about them. They are a very, very cheap way of doing business. Very, very little faculty interaction, a lot of automated grading, and also grading by classmates, simply because of the limitations of that model.
But they do give out certificates. You can actually get some kind of a certificate from a MOOC.
Absolutely, yeah. For example, Coursera, which is a MOOC company that's partnering with UC Irvine, is definitely offering certificates right now, and they're not recognized by a lot of people, but that could change.
Okay, well, Scott, it was great talking to you, and thank you for introducing us to MOOCs.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thanks much. You can watch this show and past shows at rickreef.com. Segments of the show can also be viewed at pbssocal.org. My guests have been Tim White and Scott Martindale. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on SoCal Insider.
SoCal Insider with Rick Reef is brought to you by the following. 5 Point Communities is a proud sponsor of PBS SoCal. 5 Point Communities is an independent real estate development company with assets under management across California. More information available at www.fivepointcommunities.com. Snell & Wilmer is a full-service business law firm with more than 400 attorneys in Orange County, Los Angeles, and throughout the West. On the web at swlaw.com. Snell & Wilmer. Straight talk, sound counsel. Practical solutions.
Relief Pod's latest generation of safety kits now go everywhere you go. Relief Pod's organized, color-coded, and compact safety kits keep first aid and emergency items accessible for a safe lifestyle every day. Relief Pod. Live ready.
A healthy future for you, your family, and your business is why Memorial Care Health System transformed healthcare. Our hospitals, physicians, and outpatient centers keep patients healthy and care for them when they're not. Memorial Care, one healthcare system leading the way.